Uh, I welcome everyone here. Ashish, sir, you are on mute.
Sorry, I was just finishing that other call and saying that now I'm already on the channel, so please, I need to cut that short.
So, finally, good to see all of you here. We will start exactly at 1, 3 minutes to go. People have already started joining in. We'll just wait for next few minutes.
Sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Basundhara, and on behalf of Shine.com, I welcome all of you to Shine HR Live today. Topic for discussion will be Bounce Back 2021, how HR will lead the recovery, and this will be divided in two parts. Panel discussion for 40 minutes and Q&A for 20 minutes. We will also have a fun activity in between where we will be taking a virtual group picture. You can raise your hand if you want to be a part of this group picture, and I'll add you in a separate group. I would request all the attendees to keep posting questions in Q&A segment, and speakers will answer your questions in some time. We will also be having 3 polls in between where I would request all of you to please participate. Now, I would like to introduce our panelist, Ms. Ritika Sakhuja, Talent Acquisition Leader at Nielsen IQ, Mr. Ashish Mittal, Head of People Function at Aviva India, and Ms. Neha Kaul, Marketing Head of Shine.com, will be moderating today's session. I would again request all the attendees to keep posting questions during the session. To all the panelists, it is our honor to have you here, and it will be great to listen to your inputs today. Ms. Kaul, over to you now. Neha, you're on mute.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Okay. So today we are at a precipice of making our way forward and recovering from the impact of the pandemic. Many companies have in fact already started business as usual, whereas for others, the recovery is going to be much slower. However, one thing is certain, that this recovery will require HR to take a pivotal role in guiding things back to normal or adapting to a new normal. So which one is it going to be? That's what we are going to discuss today at Shine HR Live, Bounce Back 2021, how HR will lead the recovery. Just to give you an overview, here are some key points that will be discussed today by our esteemed panelists. Skilling to begin with, and as many businesses pivot and adapt to these times, many skills needed earlier have become redundant, and there is a demand for a new skill set. HR has a key role in reskilling and upskilling, not just internal employees, but also new joinees in the workforce, and also the other challenges that they have to do so in a timely manner so that they can meet the business requirements. The other topic that we'll be discussing today would be talent acquisition. As companies begin to hire again, it will be important to get the right talent on board that cannot just adapt but thrive in a new reality that keeps shifting every day along with the pandemic. But the ways of TA have changed today, so everything is moved online. What are some pros and cons of this? That is something that our panelists will be getting into. Engagement is the third topic that we will be discussing today. And how during this entire transition, does HR keep employees engaged? How do they keep them motivated? How does HR facilitate the whole transition smoothly, whether it's going to be back to work, continuing to work remotely, or a mix of both? How do you manage this entire transition seamlessly? Now, those are the key points that will be discussed today. And with that, I'd like to open the panel for discussion. And my first question is to you, Ashish. With all this talk about businesses pivoting and streamlining their functions and role and structural changes that are happening as we try to survive in these times, is there going to be a need for innovative learning methodologies to come in? What's your take on that?
That's a great question, Neha. I think to start with, I have to say the pandemic has been the biggest reskilling project that we have ever seen, at least in my lifetime. What we learned in about 30 to 60 days was incredible. We learned how to live a life which is socially distant. We learned to work in a hybrid workplace. We learned to stay socially connected. I mean, who would have thought that we celebrate birthday parties on Zoom now, right? The another one thing that I think people really learned in a hard way is how to be fiscally prudent about managing their expenses, how do they invest money, and how do they take care of their future. And it really took us a pandemic to talk more about the mental well-being, and people started focusing on that. And so what I've seen is there's a will to learn. There's a will that people want to take up learning and reskill themselves. And what we saw specifically in Aviva, when we had about 100 branches across the country, and they were all shut down in one go. So our people in the region started to think about these processes for which we had to come to office. They started to source, sell, and issue a policy virtually within a span of 30 to 60 days. which we thought was absolutely incredible. How quickly people realize they need to reskill themselves, relearn how to issue a policy without doing a lot of paperwork. So as my CEO said, that if you want to become a digital company, this is the right time, right? And people are willing because they want to work. People are willing because they want to make an impact. People are willing because they want to make sure that they create value for the organization while sitting at home. And that happened. And let me just dwell on this point even further. I think innovation in learning is absolutely required. There is the clear answer is yes. But I think before that comes the culture of learning. How are you setting the culture where people can learn to fail fast, right? If you've done something new, it isn't working, you quickly wrap it up and start something new. And if you set that culture right, then all your methodologies will start to work. We did a lot of blended learning methodologies for people. We've gone away from run-of-the-mill project, programs that we used to do for people. What we decided was we'll focus on something that is really, really important. And that was, how do you skill your managers to manage people virtually? Right? That's the most important skill that we thought people need to learn, right? How do you adapt to the fact that person is not sitting in front of you and you are okay for him or her to work, and you're not every hour calling the person and saying, hey, where have you reached in terms of the work? You'd start trusting people more. And once you start giving that trust away to people, people respond brilliantly. That's what we have learned. And I said this earlier as well, and when I was talking to Ritika, that the way we underestimated our people is absolutely ridiculous. People responded in a much, much, much better way than we could have ever imagined. So when it comes to innovating on learning, I think we did blended journeys, we did webinars, we gave an option for people to choose from if they want to join a session on mobile phone, they want to read on their own, and we stopped mandating any courses for people. What we said was, we will introduce a new topic for you, and that's an opportunity for you to learn about the topic, and probably from there on, go and research more on this. And I'll give you an example. I did a program for my top 50, the top 50 leadership roles in Aviva, and we said we'll talk about how to tell great stories. That's a skill that is becoming increasingly important. But we didn't do a 3-month journey with them. We introduced the topic. We got a stand-up comedian on board to introduce this topic to my top 50. He talked about the journey of a joke, which is more about storytelling, right? And then we said, it's up to you to pick this skill up. If you think that is going to be important for you because you're connecting virtually, stories is all you have. Body language is gone now, right? So it's stories that inspire people to do more. So things like this we did. And the key point is we start giving people choice. Once you start giving people choice, they start to make better decisions in terms of whether they want to learn something or not, which method they want to use to learn. Do they want an iPad to learn? Do they need a printed paper in hand to read something? Do they want to go and watch a video on YouTube? So all of this culminated in a culture that we created last year, where every day people said we want to spend a couple of hours on learning something new. And that resulted in us going back to office really quickly because we were quick, we were agile, we were adapting really fast to ever-changing environment because lockdown was lifting up in particular areas and cities. So we decided, hey, now that lockdown is lifted in this area, can we go back to the original process now? So the agility that we displayed, I think that can come into picture for learning as well. Use that agility that people have displayed to skill them, to reskill them. And I think that's the way forward.
Thank you, Ashish. That's really wonderful. I mean, very, very innovative, using comedians and, giving people choice and, a safe space to fail. I think what you said, that's brilliant. Very interesting techniques. Ritika, would you like to add to that?
Thanks. I'd like to start with the topic for today, which is Bounce Back 2021, and how will we as HR professionals lead the recovery. So an important element of us leading the recovery is how is it that the organizations who are successful, how do they transform? Because this is going to be the year of transformation or the era of transformation now because of what we've seen. So what's happening is organizations who would want to transform and who would want to successfully transform, few focus areas I would like to call out are they ask the employees to do more complex work. So we look at thinking out of the box and changing what people do, what people have been doing and how they've been doing those jobs. So successfully being able to transform jobs and managing complexities is an important element of the bounce back that HR will lead. So how do we transform jobs? How do people work differently with each other? An element that Ashish spoke about is agility. So how agile are we and how quickly are we able to adapt to working differently with people, managing stakeholders, building trust remotely and virtually. So that's an important element of how HR will help the organization, or let's say enable the organization. The third element is making successful structural changes. And because of this transformation, a lot of businesses have gone through up and down. You would have seen, people coming in, people going out. Some teams have businesses, some teams have increased workload, some teams have lower workload. Hence, it calls for structural changes. And there's no set format for the right structural change, but it's an important element for success while transformation. So having said that, moving to the learning and the model of how is it that virtual learning will impact the future and what all have we done or what all can be the ideas of virtual learning. One thing that last year made us all realize is in terms of learning is also how do we ensure we support employees in maintaining an emotional balance. So how is it that their mental health is taken care of? So various initiatives are taken to support employees. We were in a true blue lockdown, which is not the situation right now. We are still moving out. So how is it that emotionally stressful it was? So we give them various support. So a helpline number available with psychiatrists available at the back end. They could reach out to people. We had 24/7 help available to employees to consult and talk about the issues that they're going through. Apart from that, first step was taken, which was enabling them to be able to work from home. So what do you really need to work from home? How do you manage work from home? How do you set your meetings? Do I have a planned time to take off for my cooking, for chores at work, to take care of the child? We don't even have that. You block this time for lunch. So this was my lunch blocked hour. So 1 to 2 is the time that our organizations block standard for everyone in the organization to go for lunch. We can't block meetings during this time. So it is giving your personal time. We also spoke to a lot of women colleagues. So HR will lead this transformation, but the voice has to come from people, right? So they will tell us what they really want. So we asked our female colleagues as to how do they feel work-life balance is now? Are they able to make some time for their personal life? So they did share. We had focus group discussions. We had surveys done with female colleagues to ask them how is it that we can help them enable work-life balance. So for example, one thing that came out and we were sharing it with our leadership in the morning is that the time that I used to take to travel back from office to home, which is let's say from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. was my time to talk to my friends, my family members on the phone, or just listen to music. It was me time. But now that time's been taken by work calls because everyone knows that there's no travel time. So, people block calls till late. So that kind of balance and that kind of awareness, we are still continuing to build to enable our workforce to have a right balance and ensure that they are motivated and charged. So that part of learning or understanding how to work is an important one. We also did an interesting initiative called Career Transition Assistance Program. We created a program internally to enable employees to understand that during tough times, you need to also upskill with elements of learning which are not available inside the organization. Look for these virtual online courses, training programs. The environment is very volatile. You don't know what's going to happen in the next minute. So are you skilled enough to do something different if the organization changes structure and your role goes through a restructuring? Do you have more skills? So learn things inside the organization, learn about different new businesses that are coming in, ways of working. So that was encouraged quite a bit, and we did a whole program and session around that. So that still continues. Apart from that, again, virtual environment, mentoring and having a mentor or a senior person who's going to guide you through your journey, because there are no face-to-face conversations, there are no coffee table conversations anymore. So is there a mentor who is going to be responsible for you and not your boss? Because in office, we used to all have those mentors, right? Now we've lost those connects. We don't have my confidant after a really crappy meeting, walk up to somebody and say, you know what, come here, I need to talk to you. So where is that person now? Because all of us are blocked with calls. We don't even have those kind of, we do have some chats connects, but the level that it was at, it's not there anymore. So we are building in a mentorship program to ensure that those bit of gaps are also addressed. So yeah, so that's it on for now on learning part of it.
Thanks, Ritika. That's brilliant. As a new mom, I can actually really relate to what you talked about, the whole balancing of work-life balance that we don't get a lot of time for now. And the mentorship program, brilliant idea. I hope more companies do that, and I'm definitely going to recommend that in our company now. So great insights there. We are going to have our first poll now. Some of the things that we actually talked about right now. So Vasundhara, do you think you can bring up the poll? And let's see what the audience has to say about that. All those choices. What is going to be the priority for your organization in 2021? Okay, interesting. I think these are tough choices. People are interesting.
I request all the people in the audience and even in our panel to please vote and participate in polls.
Yes, yes, I've done that.
I just did. Where can I see the output though?
We will share the results soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually able to see that. That's why I was saying that it's very interesting and it's very close. So, at least for two of the options. Okay, Vasundhara, do you want to close it now? I think, okay, wait, we have a few more. Okay, well, so yeah, it was pretty close there, when I saw the results coming in between creating a safe space for employees and, introducing guidelines for them to get back to work, and also technology adoption and deployment to make virtual work easier. That sort of actually tells us, what's happening today. A lot of companies, like you talked about, are like Ashish's company, are getting employees back to work safely, and then there are the companies who say we would like to continue to work virtually. So on that note, actually, we see, I would like to dive into the next topic, which is related to talent acquisition, Ritika. And I would go to you first. Do you think technology will continue to play a pivotal role for talent acquisition in the future? And how do you think HR is going to use that to actually expand the talent footprint, because now you have, new markets opening up to you. There can be more diversity that, remote working can actually enable. And I don't just mean gender diversity, but, geographically, whether it's age-based, whether it's typical demographic segments, like, mothers want to come back to work. So how does technology, because as you can see in the polls also, a lot of people are talking about technology adoption. So how do we, use that for talent acquisition, and what are your views on that?
Thanks, Neha. Talent acquisition being my forte right now. The moment the lockdown happened, it was a bittersweet feeling. Of course, we were locked down at home, but it actually enabled me to go to the most aspired way of recruiting, which is use technology, use virtual ways of working. I used to always advocate, why do you need to call the candidate to office for interviewing and meet that person face to face? And the hiring managers would always tell me, no, after meeting the person, we'll understand how that person really is. Same thing can happen virtually. So, people crack huge deals virtually these days. They don't really need to see each other on the face. So we broke that barrier, and now all our, then onwards, all our hiring managers became absolutely comfortable using the video hiring tool. What also happened is we use a tool called HireVue. It's a brilliant online video interviewing tool. So our screening happens through that tool. So we use technology for screening candidates. We built in screening questions, and the candidate can answer those questions at a convenient point. We record those answers and we share them with various panel members of one requisition, and they go through the candidate's profile and they feed in their inputs on the same platform. The feedback is also at one place. We can also set, the whole flow of recruitment. We use another tool called Smart Recruiters, where we can have the whole flow of the funnel of recruitment coming in. How many applications are there? What happened to that application? How many candidates are at interview stage? What's the feedback? We moved away from pen and paper feedbacks, asking hiring managers to, go and check case studies for candidates. Our aptitude tests are all online. So technology, interviewing, technology for candidate workflow, technology for aptitude tests. So we've brought in all of that. There were portions where we did not have technology. We got away with it. So we did it out. So thankfully it's worked for us. I'm very happy, and I'm actually proud to say that we use technology for the entire workflow, including the offer letter. There are no pen and paper offer letters, appointment letters, onboarding formalities. All of that is technology enabled. The laptops are sent to new hires, delivered to their addresses that they share with us. So I think technology has played a huge positive role when it comes to recruiting and onboarding candidates. So, and that's when the element of agility that, again, Ashish and me mentioned comes in, or came in at that time, as to how is it that immediately we had to turn around and we had to figure out our ways of working. When you talk about how, the second element to your question, and before I hand over to Ashish, I'd like to answer is, how is it that we as gatekeepers, we as people who are drivers of diversity, while I think diversity is an agenda which is not purely and truly only HR agenda, it's an organization agenda. It's something that we all drive together. Each one of us in the organization is responsible for driving diversity. Like you said, not just gender diversity, but diversity in terms of the type of talent, the type of background people belong to. So that's an important one. So various different types of initiatives which are taken for driving diversity. I can call out just a few. Is for senior leadership diversity, we mandate our hiring managers to interview at least 2 female workforce, 2 female associates before they go ahead and select anybody, even if it's not a female. So we pretty much force them, and if they don't follow, interviewing a female candidate for the role, they need to have HR heads approvals for going ahead and making that hire. There are reasons, there can be exceptions, but we encourage people to interview females. Now, diversity is also about us understanding how the diverse talent will benefit us. So that's what is an important element, is to make your organization sensitive enough and enable your hiring managers or businesses to understand importance of diversity, and also how is it that I can break the bias when I'm doing a recruitment process, or when I'm bringing in talent. I'm just talking about that element. There's various ways that you can nurture diversity and train. And Ashish, being the HR head, he can talk about it, but I'm only talking about when we bring in people from diverse backgrounds. It's important for me to understand that I'm biased sometimes, and make we do things like gender free. We have gender neutral policies in our organization. So all our HR policies have been made gender neutral. So that's a huge step that we have taken as well to drive diversity. Another thing that we are planning to do is diversity of the type of talent. So instead of hiring MBAs for a particular role that we used to hire, we are saying, can we look at non-MBAs and train them as well? So why not open the recruitment? Why not open the positions to more talent pool that's available in the country? We have great talented workforce, but we need to spend some time in training them. Do I really need a typical MBA for certain roles? Maybe not. Can I look at engineers? So yeah, so that's various ways that we are thinking of adding more diversity. Ashish, over to you.
I think, Ritika, what a thorough screenshot for people to look at and see what they can do in their hiring space. So I think the point that I want to add on is to start with, because we were hiring across locations, we had about 100 locations where we hire people. And I'm not sure if people know, but in insurance companies, attrition is pretty high. And we hire about 600, 700 people every year. And so we were quite virtual in that sense already. We were quite advanced stage when we were hiring people. But what pandemic helped us do is remove those small nuggets like Ritika was mentioning. No appointment letter will go with a signature and a hard copy, right? So all of that element started to go away. But when the pandemic hit, and something that I want to all to think about is what we started to think about is how do we create a workplace that is what people are demanding. After April, May, when pandemic was in the full flow, people started expecting a lot from the organization when we were looking to go and hire people. The expectations were very different, and we never heard of them. And we never expected a candidate to come and say, hey, I'm not going to come to office for next 3 months. I'm at my hometown. I hope your organization will support me and send me a laptop to 300 kilometers away from your head office. Right? Those are the things that we started to hear, and we thought, hey, it's time to take a step back and look at how we want to acquire talent in the future and what are the facilities we want to provide them. So one thing that we started doing was we started reconstructing how work is done. And we said, we have to start looking at the elements in a job that can be done from home and that can be done from office only. And we said, we let people decide, right? We started asking this question to ourselves and made sure the team asked this question within the group to say, hey, how do I support organization? And do I really need to be in office to do my job? Which was considered a normal response would be, yes, you need to be initially. But then they quickly realized that a large portion of their job can be done from working from anywhere, be it home, be it office, doesn't matter, right? And that's where we started to see a real change in terms of how do we have structured work. And we realized 80% to 70% of the jobs can be done from home. So there's a 30% element that for you need to come to office, and you thought that for everything you need to be in office. And that's where the change started. And when we started thinking about what kind of organization I really want in the future. Do I want an organization that is remote completely? Do I want an organization which is a hybrid model? Do I want an organization which is free to choose, right? In terms of do they want to be in office anytime or be work from home? So that's another point that I want people to start thinking about what kind of organization they want to create, right? And how far along is the digital strategy? Don't let this crisis go to waste, right? Use this crisis to create a long-term digital strategy for your company. And it starts with saying what kind of people you want, what kind of resources you are willing to provide to people to work, and how do you save costs. So one example that I'm going to share that I used a lot to get my finance team to support the cost that we were doing. We said, if we are going to go and hire people in tier 2s and tier 3s, and we don't expect them to come to HOs or the regional office in Gurgaon and Mumbai and Bangalore, they are willing to come at a much lower cost, right? Because it's about net neutral for them, right? If they are not spending that money by staying in a big city, they're okay to come at a lower cost. And that just changed the game for us, because suddenly we had access to the talent across the country. We were not limiting ourselves to say, hey, I want someone who lives nearby so that he can come to, or he or she can come to office, but we're willing to explore anyone and almost everyone who had the skill set to do the job, instead of looking at the proximity of the office, the accessibility to office. So all of that started to go out of the picture. So think about your long-term digital strategy. Use this crisis to create a strategy which is not only to cater to pandemic, but in long term, what kind of organization you want to create. And I'll give you another example. We closed down one floor in our head office, and that led to a huge saving in terms of electricity, renting, and all of that. And those are the things that HR has led the change and said, let's close down this space. We will let people work from home and we will save a lot of cost there. So we were really at the forefront at that time by creating a space that was saving costs for the organization, which we really needed. In fact, everyone really needed during the last year when the businesses were down and stuff like that. So the whole idea of what I talked about, coupled with what Ritika said, is about you create a process, you create a roadmap, but at the same time, think about how do you want to sustain it for the future. Because it's very easy to break this habit and go back to As I'm assuming Ritik will start hearing saying, oh, can I now meet the person in person in office now that we are back in office? How do you avoid that? That will get only avoided if you have a long-term strategy in place where we are still continuing to go on virtual space. We are continuing to go being productive while being virtual. If you are productive, if you're virtual, no one really cares beyond a point of time. And that is the new normal that you would like to create, and I would like to create for my organization. So that's my input on the hiring with my limited expertise on this topic.
Thanks, Ashish. And you all actually touched a lot on the third topic that we were going to talk about. So I'm just going to do the poll beforehand, since you've already spoken a bit about the whole work from home and work from office. Vasundhara, could we have the poll up, please? Okay, the poll is open now, so everyone can participate. Interesting. Okay, I think we can. Yeah, I think we're getting a fair read now, Vasundhara. We can close it now. So yeah, 62% say that they would do a combination of work from home and work from office. Interesting. Okay. So, and that is the perfect segue for the third question. You know, there's a lot of debate around whether to continue to work virtually or engage employees to come back to office. And, you know, while you spoke a little bit about that, Ashish, any best practices, more, you know, more details that you would like to share for organizations like yours, you know, where they do plan to return to work?
I think I'll do example what we tried and experimented with it without a lot of theory behind it, which we love to do in HR. We started asking people, think about your own job and tell us where do you need to be, because we were part of the essential services and we were allowed to come back to office as long as we manage the safety for the employees. And we started asking this question to all our managers. We started asking this question to all the teams to ask and answer this question themselves. What's the best place for them to do their job? An interesting segue started to come from those questions to say, hey, I need to be in office only for doing this part of my job. However, because I stay fairly far away, can someone else in my team take this part of the job and come to office so that I can really stay at home and be more productive? And you know, I'll call about a actual conversation where someone said, hey, I stay in Dwarka and HO is really far away from me. Can I work from home permanently? And there was someone who said, I know I can do this job from home. I can come to office, but I have 2 young kids and I don't want to expose them at all. So I don't want to be in office, but I know what part of the job can be done from home. And can I give that to someone else in my team, someone who stays close by? So once you gave the choice to people about deciding what's the best place for them to do their job, and then reconstruct their work and say, hey, can this part of my job go to someone else within the team? We started to see miracle happening, right? We had people who said, put up their hands up and said, hey, I'll be in office and I'll cover for everyone else. While there is a X person in my team, I don't think that person should come to office because they have elderly parents or young kids. And the part of the job that they need to be in office for, I'll take care of that. Suddenly we had collaboration coming in, which we already dreamt of. Like in HR, we always talk about how can we collaborate and create a workplace which is supporting each other and creating more value by doing things together. The concept of team started to really display when we started doing this activity. And suddenly we had we had managers who tell us that, I have this person who's 70% productive. I have this person who's actually being 120% today by being in office. I had someone who can only be 50%, but we are okay as a team. So if you look at us as a team, we are still fine. And that point of time, it said, do we really care if as a as an individual, there is someone who is less productive than we expect them to be during the pandemic, as long as the team is delivering what the team is expected to deliver. And that's the best practice I want to share. Give people a lot of choices. Give people a lot of confidence to choose and tell us what they can do for the organization. Everyone comes in office, spend 8 to 9 hours for doing office work. They want to create value. They want to add value to the organization. They don't want to sit idle. Trust in people is extremely important. Show them a lot of empathy as an organization. Open channels of communication with them and talk to them as much as possible. Don't let a virtual screen be a barrier to talk to someone. I think Ritika touched upon a very important point earlier, saying that we don't have those mentors, those non-designated mentors who would help us after a meeting or before you go into a meeting, just have a quick chat about how do you want to do the stuff. However, have you created that half an hour in your day where you just talk to that person? While Ritika is still doing the mentorship program, and I want to learn more about it and how is it going. But we said, why don't you just pick up a phone and call someone you want to? And what we did was we went one step further. After creating that 1 hour lunch window, we also did that, Ritika. We also said there will be no meetings after 6 o'clock. That's family time. We said we don't want anyone to have any regular team connect or meeting after 6 p.m. Obviously, you can have work, you can call someone. And that created a space for people to call up their mentors, their friends in office, to connect and to talk about stuff. Another thing, an interesting thing that we did, while a very small thing, but it created a huge impact. We started telling people, buy the headphones which are without wires, right? The new headphones that are coming in. And that actually changed the game for a lot of us, including myself. I never thought I'll be using that one earpiece in my ear and be calling people. But that suddenly just created your hands were free. You could do a small chore while still be on call. That created more space and time for people to manage their 8 hours, 9 hours in office. Because no matter what you say, if you have a 2-year-old at home, you can't lock yourself in a room and say, I'll be now on a call fully focused. That doesn't work, right? That for that kid, it's his or her home, and you are encroaching that space by locking that door and saying, I'll only work from here and you can't come in. The kid wants to come in that room more than any time ever, right? So we said, small things. So we went to basics and we said, what can help you be at your best at home? Right? And all of those things, small things started to accumulate over time. And we started seeing more comfortable people talking. People started to take calls while walking. We said, it's not necessary for you to be showing your face on the screen if you have a meeting. If you want to go for a walk, put that earpiece on, do the walk, do the call. We don't care to see your face. We know your face, how you look like, right? Once in a while, we'll see you, but it doesn't really matter, right? As long as you can contribute, as long as it's a place where you can really interact and you can really add value, we're fine with it. It doesn't matter if you're cooking and still be on the call. So all of these things, the confidence about these things the tone was set from the CEO, who very clearly on an email said, if you are on screen and if there is a kid who wants to come and say hi, don't be embarrassed. It's his space or it's her space. And let them be, and don't worry about it. Absolutely. And that tone that was said in April, May had just accentuated, become a snowball for people to take things on their own. And at the end of the day, what we want is people to be productive. What we want is people to add value. As long as they're doing it, we can look at decorum a little later, right? I hope that makes sense.
What a wonderful analogies, wonderful examples, Ashish. Thank you so much for that.
Neha, I would like to interrupt in between. I would request all the attendees to please post questions in Q&A. If you will post your questions in chat, there might be a case or scenario where we will miss answering your questions. Few questions Ms. Ritika has already answered. Would request you to please share questions in Q&A. We will be answering the questions within 5 minutes.
Yeah, so I think Vasundhara is basically reminding us of the time at the same time. So Ritika, over to you without wasting any more time, and then we'll dive into the Q&A.
Sure, thanks. So returning to work, I'm still working from home. It's been a year. But our field workforce, so we have two sets of workforce, at least for our company. Our field workforce was always, I think, in a couple of months up and out. The kind of measures that we took to ensure that they're safe. In fact, they were not just working, they were working on the field, visiting people's houses, offices, various places to collect data. That's what we do. We do research, we do data collection. So we enable the team by giving them weekly supplies of PPE kits, gloves, sanitizers, masks. All of that was provided to them. So the set was delivered weekly to people to be safe out there. There was a doctor on call service available, not just for employees, but their family members as well. It's still there. So we empaneled with an organization for enabling employees to get support from doctors in case of any medical issues. For the rest of the workforce, what's important to decide, and maybe without just not sharing best practices, because Ashish has shared quite a bit about best practices, things that they have done for employees. How do you enable them coming back to office? The various elements that an HR professional, since this is a forum where HR professionals are there, so various elements that you think about while taking any kind of decisions or plans for future is you look at your current employees, you hear the voice of employees, you hear the voice of employers. So what is it that your leadership, your business leaders have to say? And you also hear the society. So you hear best practices on what's happening outside. So see a mix of what everyone else is doing as well, learn from the best practices and just shamelessly copy as well a lot of places. I'm more than happy to pick up best practices from other places, because sometimes you can't, and a lot of times you can't just keep innovating things because it's my idea. So pick things from, ways of working that people are taking, or steps people are taking to come back to work. Our offices might as well open very soon. So there are huge teams and committees deciding, are we going to have rostered, working? So is everyone coming the same day? Are workstations going to be distanced? The offices have shrunk. The workspaces have become smaller from what they were. Not everyone will come to office. We've asked for polls from employees asking, are you comfortable to come to office? Do you want to work from home fully? Do you want to partially work from home? So those kind of polls have also been taken into consideration before making these decisions of returning back to work. And of course, there's a committee, which is a global team called PMO team, which is actually looking at everyday COVID progress across the country and saying, this part of the city you can open, or this part of the city you can't open because it's still not safe for employees to go out. So we are making a thought through decision on coming back to work and opening the offices. So yeah, that's it from our side. I think we are over time, Neha, and maybe we can.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I think we're fine. We have a few questions, and I think we'll have time to address those. So since maybe I'll bring the first question to you. Where someone's asking, our management is a bit afraid to ask the employees about the same question. Where do they think they can perform the work best from? I think they're referring to the poll bit that you said just now. Afraid that people will say they can perform better at home due to their own personal advantage, because a lot of people will prefer working from home for that. And any advice to break this kind of thinking?
So Ashish has actually touched up on that a little bit, right? That he was pleasantly surprised after we asked the employees. So it's just a mindset that we actually think everyone will want to work from home. Do you really want to work from home for the entire year like you have? I wouldn't. While I used to love working from home so much, I used to always work from home partially, and our organization always promoted work from home for people, for women returning to work after maternity leave. But do I now like it a lot? No, I need my own travel time. I need that music time. I need to go to the coffee machine and talk. I need to get life normal. So trust me, you'll be surprised when you start rolling out that poll. We've already done that and we've seen the results. It's not, it doesn't seem like the whole organization chose that I want to work from home. And then you have to take some executive decisions eventually. So you do ask, but you do make executive decisions about things like these.
True. And
while I've shared something, I just want to add on to what Ritika said. Absolutely spot on, Ritika. And we were pleasantly surprised. But I just want to say one thing: the mindset. If you want to change the mindset for the senior executives in your team, we are socially connected people. We are a species that thrives on being socially connected. We have evolved as a species because we are socially connected. None of us wants to be at home forever. That's actually against our nature, right? So if you ask people today, and as Ritika just said, I want to come to office. I want that listening time while I'm in my car or in my cab. I want that space for myself, which I don't probably get at home at some time. So if you ask people honestly, and if you tell them that we will trust on you, you will get the answer which is in the best interest of the organization. I think it's all about how do you frame that question also, and how do you give confidence to people that working from office is safe. A lot of people will say work from home because they are concerned about safety. So take that away. Give them confidence. The office is a safe space, and we really want you to decide on what's the best place. At some time, there are few jobs that you may not want to ask this question to, and it may feel like we are biasing by not asking this team this particular question. But we need to start, right? Nothing can be foolproof in this environment. Nothing can be all encompassing at this time. Just make sure you start pushing and start asking this question. Once you start doing that, once you start seeing small results in smaller teams, the mindset will automatically start to change for senior executive as well.
Thanks, Ashish, for adding to that. Ritika, there's a question that is specifically for you, so I'm going to bring that to you first. What is your organization's response to employees' learning and development during pandemic? I know you spoke about it a bit earlier also, but did you want to add any points that you missed earlier?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I can maybe repeat on a little bit of what we spoke about is during the pandemic, like we said, the immediate response of the organization was to ensure we enable employees to understand how to virtually work with each other. Smallest of things like, do I need to set a 30-minute meeting for a 5-minute conversation, or can I just set a 5-minute meeting? A lot of times we saw that the calendars were blocked for 30 minutes, and you wouldn't find time in anyone's calendar some point of time. But we realized that we had to let everybody know that you have an option of, reducing the time, because automatically it picks up 30 minutes and somebody blocks 30 minutes. So you tell people that it's okay if you have a 5-minute conversation, I'm going to block 5 minutes for you. So that's a part of learning and development. Employees sometimes miss that. Managers sometimes miss that. And the team is obligated to be on the call as set by a manager. While you have a lot of work to do, but there's a 30-minute call, so you're blocked for 30 minutes. So we did a huge program, a huge learning path for enabling people for working from home. How do you ensure that you stay, so from a people manager's perspective, how does a people manager ensure that he or she is connected to the workforce? We anyway had a methodology or mechanism of regular skips. So quarterly skips was a part of, a quarterly connects was a part of our performance evaluation process. So that continued. So managers supposed to be quarterly connecting. We introduced some more, we said that, why don't you do team meetings? So we shared a lot of best practices. We did a lot of leadership webinars. So just this kind of a webinar. We had leadership webinars where leadership would share how is it that they are managing work life. It's not that only few of us suffer from work-life balance issue, but pretty much everyone is complaining about it at some point, and saying, "Oh, I don't have work life." So we let our employees learn from best practices of leaders as to how do they manage work life. What are they doing? They also have they don't have help for child. So how do you manage childcare while you're a working mother? So all of that. So various ways, mentoring was one of the things that we did. Manager school is something that's coming back. So earlier, how is it that the managers were managing performance of people in office versus how is it that you're continuing to, or how is it that you will manage virtually your team now? So we've built a whole program called Manager School, which is actually a 12-month intervention to enable new managers, people who come into people manager roles. Now, imagine what's happened is a lot of new workforce who's been hired last year has actually never met their manager. So how is it that you establish that rapport with your manager who you've never met? You can't even, I don't have any personal rapport with my manager because I've not met. So we enable managers to understand that there is an importance of having that sort of personal rapport. So Friday evening fun time is an important time. You do have your team connects. In fact, we started this idea of having lunches or meals together. So we order from one particular place, deliver it to all cities. We've really beautifully managed one of the shows where pretty much all cities had biryani delivered from a vendor who delivers everywhere. All of us were enjoying lunch together. So build that sort of an environment where, you know, you're so comfortable with each other, and it almost feels like you're back in office. Yeah, so that's a bit on learning.
Thanks, Ritika. Actually, I've been thinking of doing that for my team too. So great idea, getting lunch for everyone together. Ashish, I'll direct the next question to you. Does team HR need to be in the forefront? Do they need to be seen in office? Is that the right mindset? This is asked by
Interesting
Rosh.
question. Interesting
Yeah,
question.
very interesting.
See, I'll tell you, there are two ways to look at this question. One is, are there people who needs to be in office to deliver value for the organization, right? And are we doing it just because we want people to come back to office? So that the answer to the first question is yes. Then I would say team HR also needs to be there, because the whole idea of a team is that you support each other and no one has any special preference, right? We did something similar when we were first coming back to office. People were really concerned about their safety. People were really concerned about, we were scared, right? And media didn't help, right, in spreading the scare. And I think they did the right thing, because we needed to be scared so that we learn to become social distant very quickly. But when we needed to come to office, what we did was we said, if we have a team of call center employees who are coming to office, we'll create a safe space for them so that they just walk into their space, and it's kind of a place where no one walks in and no one else comes in that space. So they create that safety issues out. And we said, instead of all the HR guys coming to office, why don't we have one of them take turns to just show up at office, say a distant hello to everyone, and be seen in office. Sometime, there's an old adage about management by walking, and we said there is a management by seeing there helps. So we did that, and at times they need to be, just to make sure that everyone feels safe to come to office, because you are creating a safety protocol for office. But if you're not willing to come to office, how are anyone else going to be feeling safe about it? Does that make sense? I hope it creates a balance there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, we can also, I'll just add to that quickly, is that we also break HR into various verticals of HR, right? So some verticals were the front face of employees, which is mostly the HR business partners. They would need to be around employees, and that's how it's been traditionally. It's been before as well, right? So HR business partners are around employees to brainstorm on ideas, to work together. But if you look at somebody like my team, if I look at the recruitment team, we'd probably not need to be in the forefront or always sitting in one office. Our teams have acquired a hub model over a period of time, which means the whole team is sitting in one city, but we are hiring for our country and other countries sitting here. So do I really need to be seen by hiring managers? Not necessarily. I need to stay connected. I need to give regular updates. I need to have conversations. They are more from this unit. They are more interested in tasks to happen and not to be, doing consulting all the time. For HR business partner, it's more consulting. It's more venting out when I need to, something's happened and I need to come and speak to you and I need to tell you, and I feel more comfortable speaking to you face to face. So sometimes that's how employees feel. So yeah, that presence of HR from HR business partners becomes a little important. HR operations also maybe again for some transactional tasks, but if you're onboarding, etc., is all virtual, they may not in future be necessarily coming to office.
Thanks, Ritika. Thanks, Ashish. Wonderful webinar, some great insights. We'll definitely be sharing the recording with all the participants as well as with both of you. And once again, thank you to the audience as well for some great questions. And if there are a couple of questions which have remained unanswered as we've reached a time limit, we'll try and get the inputs of our panelists to you and send you a Q&A guide for that. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Ashish. Thank you, Ritika.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.